Welcome to your airplane news update. This is the week of August 9, 2021. This week we only have 3 topics, but 2 of them are actually pretty lengthy, so we kept it a little bit shorter. First one is DHL is buying electric cargo airplanes. You know, I like to talk about electric airplanes because I think there is a future for this, and we'll talk about what happened there. We'll talk about the FAA that is proposing a fine on a charter operation, actually 5 charter operation worth $1.2 million. And then lastly, we'll talk about someone who flew for 7 days and had 7 crashes in an airplane called a Seawind. So let's get to it. All right, the first story this week is DHL is purchasing aircraft, cargo airplanes that are electric from a company called Eviation. And Eviation is kind of close to home here in Prescott. They have a base where they tested the Eviation Alice and where they have an office and a big hangar. This is actually a hangar that I used to work inside when I first moved to Prescott. So, but anyway, DHL is buying 12 of these Eviation Alice electric cargo airplane. They said that they were going to use them for shorter hop for cargo flights, less than 400 miles. That's shorter. The Alice in itself has a capacity of 2,600 pounds, so they can carry quite a bit. And the recharge in itself takes about 30 minutes, which is extremely fast. If you think about what's necessary to fly for 400 miles, 30 minutes is nothing. And that can be done during the unloading and the reloading of the plane, which I'm sure takes a lot more than 30 minutes. So kind of good news, quite frankly. I think this is cool. This is cool technology. I think this is the future that we'll see in a decade or so. We'll see a lot more electric airplanes out there. There are still a lot of limitations. We've talked about this before. The battery size, the chemicals in the battery and everything. But as technology improves, then hopefully we'll see more of these types of deals. The next thing is the FAA is coming down on 5 different charter operations across the country for what they call illegal operation. And they're proposing $1.2 million against these 5 charter companies. And essentially what the FAA is saying is that they are operating as a charter flight under the guise of a sales demo, a demonstration for sales, which falls under different sets of rules. The FAA is basically slapping them with what's called the careless and reckless endangering of lives and properties. If you're a student in my course, when I talk about the regulation, talk about 9113. 9113 is careless and reckless operations. And I say that this is a catch-all regulation where the FAA, if they want to get you, they're going to use 9113. Well, guess what? 9113 right here. Although it may not be under Part 91, it might be under a different set of rules, but I guarantee you in these other sets of regulation, there's also the equivalent to careless and reckless. The companies are Pottco Tactical and Pottco Air Lease, which are located in Council Bluffs in Iowa. The problem with them is that they had a lack of required personnel on staff. They didn't have a qualified director of operation. They didn't have a chief pilot. They didn't have a director of maintenance, which you would think is kind of required for this type of charter operation. Other issues were that pilots didn't pass the required written exam or the oral exam, any of the proficiency checks or check rides in the last 12 months. So again, not really something you want to see with this kind of operation. The other companies were Whiteberg Air in Omaha, Nebraska. We had Oracle Aviation in the same town, East Shore Aviation in Charleston, South Carolina. The FAA is kind of a timely thing. They're having a seminar online, and the seminar is called Preventing and Identifying Illegal Air Charters. Learn how to prevent and avoid an illegal air charter flight. So that's happening on Monday, August 23rd, if you're interested, at 7 p.m. Eastern. Obviously, I'm sure they're going to talk about all of these examples that we see right here. This is kind of a reminder that from time to time, you know, we always complain that the FAA doesn't really take action and all these things. Well, they do take actions when it's necessary, when safety it becomes a major effect. So last thing, speaking of safety and speaking of dangerous activities, somebody bought a Seawind aircraft in California on June 25th, and they were going to fly back. And in the process, they flew for 7 days and they had 7 crashes total. Now, the first crash, I'm going to go through all of them so you can kind of see the I don't even know what word to use, but The first crash came with a gear up landing. Now this aircraft has a propeller on the top, has a motor on the top, as you can see in the picture. And very first flight, there's a 2-inch thick piece of wooden block that took basically the brunt of the impact, and the aircraft was fixed. Second crash came during the trip back home, during the first night landing that the pilot had in 20 years. The aircraft stalled, came down in the grass on the left of the runway, and some damage to the airport, some damage to the airport signs right here. Now this is crash number 2. They go the next day, they do a flight test, and that also ends in a mishap where the pilot has to talk to an FAA investigator. Now, test flight, day number 2 or whatever day that was, crash number 3 right here. They repair the airplane is airborne again. Crash number 4 happens when the servo in the left wing gets stuck and the aircraft continues to pitch up and pitch up. After 4 attempts, they basically make a landing at this airport, and they land in the grass at O'Neill Municipal Airport. The folks at the airport give the pilot a bunch of tools, a jack to repair the airplane, and then at that point, the airplane decides to go for another test flight and to repair what happened during crash number 4. And then during the test flight, crashes again for crash number 5. The airplane gets repaired again. The pilot decides to continue all the way to Michigan. And then 5 hours out of Nebraska, something breaks again in the airplane. The hydraulic pressure reads 0. The fuel also showed that there was an uneven supply of fuel, based on the article, because the gauges were installed upside down. Anyway, the pilot decides to land gear up, this time at another municipal airport. Now, he finds someone to take him to get some hydraulic fluid at a store nearby, and then when he comes back, he's greeted by the Michigan State Patrol, who turns him into the FAA for investigation. Now, he refiles, gets back up, taxis back, goes out the runway, and then crash number 7 out of 7 days, happens in Lake Michigan when the engine starts to sputter, and then the pilot said that he smells something burning on board of the aircraft. He goes gear down this time in the lake, and the aircraft finally sinks at the bottom of the lake, and then he's rescued by the Coast Guards. I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say. Obviously, lack of judgment. Lack of judgment doesn't even cover it, and everything else in between. So don't be that guy. If something happens, make sure you get it fixed. Obviously, if you're having a lot of accidents in a row, you should have one accident and then be done with it, and then seek for remedial training, and then do something else. But anyway, I don't want to armchair quarterback this list of incidents, but it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully we find out more about what happens to him. I'm sure he's going to lose his license. The FAA is going to do some investigation in here, but something that we can all learn from, I think. All right, that's it. That's all I have. As always, like, subscribe, leave your comment. Let me know what you think went through this person's head as they were getting through all these accidents one after the other. Get their itis, right? You want to really get to your destination. Probably one of the issues here. All right, that's it. See you guys next week.